Like the first three panels, the fourth panel tells a fascinating and instructive story. One lesson it clearly teaches is that for as long as we think it's practical to try, we will pursue justice until we attain it, even on behalf of society's weakest members, even against society's most powerful. Here's the background. On a night shortly after Christmas, the SWAT team of the city of Richmond, Virginia, was called out to serve a search warrant for drugs and guns at an apartment in a public housing project. The idea was to make a quick, surprise entry into the apartment by shooting the lock on the apartment's front and back doors. To accomplish this, the police used a high-tech ammunition called a number 22 TKO. Here is an unfired number 22 TKO round. As you see, it looks like a 12-gauge shotgun round. In fact, it is fired from a 12-gauge shotgun, but in place of lead pellets, it contains a slug made of compressed zinc powder. When this slug squarely strikes metal, it disintegrates into its powdery components, and in doing so, destroys the metal. But when the slug hits pure wood, the resulting heat and pressure cause portions of the slug to fuse into solid zinc shrapnel, and this shrapnel is highly lethal. Initially, the raid went as planned. Upon arrival at the apartment, the SWAT team divided into two squads. One squad was to attack the lock on the kitchen door and then enter the apartment. The other squad was to do likewise at the living room door. At the front of each squad was a policeman called the breacher. Each of the two breachers was armed with a 12-gauge shotgun, and each of those shotguns was loaded with 5 number 22 TKOs. Upon receiving the signal to begin, the two breachers fired all 10 of their number 22 TKOs into the kitchen and living room doors over a period of about 10 seconds. Meanwhile, inside, chaos suddenly exploded. The first floor of the apartment was a small L-shaped open space with the living room and its door at one end and the kitchen and its door at the other end. The 10 blasts quickly filled the apartment with deafening noise and disorienting smoke. Inside the apartment were Ms. Brown and her 3-year-old daughter. They were visiting, having arrived only 10 minutes earlier. Their plan was to meet up with Ms. Brown's best friend and her children, and then go to the friend's house for the evening. As these two mothers and their children were preparing to leave, the shooting began with no warning at all. What was Ms. Brown to do? Standing in the living room when the shooting began, her instinctive response was to protect her 3-year-old. And so she grabbed her child and headed through the smoke and noise away from the living room door and into the kitchen. As she entered the kitchen, a blast of zinc shrapnel ripped through the kitchen door and struck her in the chest. Ms. Brown fell to the floor. When the police entered the apartment moments later, Ms. Brown was dead, lying in a pool of her own blood. Beneath her could be seen 2 small legs. When the police moved the body, they found the 3-year-old. Miraculously, the child had no physical injuries, but she was covered with her mother's blood. Not surprisingly, on autopsy, zinc shrapnel was found in Ms. Brown's aorta. So, what had happened? What went wrong? Had the number 22 TKO malfunctioned? To find out, we gathered all evidence and took the deposition of the police officer who fired the 5 number 22 TKOs into the kitchen door. Let's start with the physical evidence. Fortunately, Ms. Brown's family contacted us the day after the tragedy. As a result, our first step was to obtain a court order requiring the police to preserve the kitchen door and all other pertinent evidence. Based on this evidence, we prepared this diagram. It shows the deadbolt lock and knob that the breacher saw before he fired his first shot into the kitchen door. As you see, the kitchen door had a keyed deadbolt lock, and about 4 inches below it was a knob. And this is a photograph of the outside of the deadbolt lock depicted in the drawing. Note especially the small pie-shaped gash. Once we took the breacher's deposition, we realized that this gash marked the spot where the first of the 5 number 22 TKOs struck the kitchen door. Here is the policeman's deposition testimony that helped us figure this out.
And in connection with the first load that you fired at the door, at what point of the door did you point the barrel of the shotgun?
The sights were placed on the lock, the area between the deadbolt lock and where the frame is. There's a small area that's exposed, and that's the area we shot at.
And why is it that you shot at that area between the deadbolt lock and the frame?
That's where the throw goes into the frame from the lock.
So you were shooting at the throw, the deadbolt throw, for that first shot, correct?
Correct.
In other words, the policeman intentionally fired only the first of his 5 shots into the deadbolt. In contrast, shots 2, 3, 4, and 5 went below the lock into pure wood, and consequently had formed lethal zinc shrapnel by the time they entered the kitchen. And here is the piece of the deadbolt lock that moved when the key was turned. You can see exactly where the policeman's first shot struck. When we put all of this evidence together, we were able to prepare this diagram. This failure to aim only at hardware was particularly surprising in light of the following testimony of the policeman.
When you fired those 5 shots at the door, did you even consider that there might be people in the room on the other side of the door?
You're always aware that the room that you're going into might be occupied. You're always aware of that.
So you did consider that there might be people on the other side of the door?
You always assume that there might be somebody on the other side of the door, yes, sir.
So what was the policeman thinking? Why had he fired below the lock and into pure wood? We never did get a clear answer to that question. But at trial, we asked the jury to conclude that none of the testimony of the policeman was trustworthy, in part because of the following testimony.
At any time before you finally got the kitchen door open, did you try the doorknob to see if it would turn other than that first time before the first frangible shot?
No, sir. No, sir.
So it could have been that the reason the door wouldn't open was that the throw that was connected with the knob was keeping it from opening. Isn't that true?
The doorknob throw?
Yes, sir.
It's possible. I'd have to look at the pictures and see how far up and down I came on that, but that's possible. Yes, sir. It's possible that was holding the door shut.
Well, how could you possibly have expected the first of the 5 frangible shots to have caused the door to open if there was a throw attached to the knob and you didn't try the knob?
We went up and down, sir, and if you look, if you see how we place our shots, and those doorknobs are generally insignificant. They disintegrate with just the pressure of the round coming through and knocking holes in the door.
Let me show you the portion of the kitchen door's lock in question. Here it is. It's the latch that was attached to the knob. As you see, it's hardly the, quote, insignificant, close quote, hardware that the policeman said it was when he testified in the video clip that you just saw. In this fashion, we were able to piece together what happened and thereby prove that the policeman had been grossly negligent when he shot Ms. Brown. If you or someone you love has suffered a serious injury caused by the fault of another person, remember these three things. First, time is of the essence. The sooner we get involved, the sooner we can preserve the evidence that can be essential to proving what really happened and why. Second, we often can make a case by locating insurance coverage that can only be found by an expert who knows the ins and outs of Virginia insurance law. And third, and most important, we bring intensity, attention to detail, and a passion for justice to every case we handle.